Superman is the world's oldest superhero, but which of his stories are the ones every comic fan should read? Let's find out. What's up, my comic comrades? Superman is easily the most recognizable superhero in the world. I mean, he's really the superhero that started it all, kicking off the DC universe as we know it in 1938. As a result, the Man of Steel has some of the best and most legendary stories in comic history. And with that in mind, we're here to give you our top 10 most essential Superman stories. Also, just as a reminder, Variant the Podcast returns this coming Monday, July 24th, and we'll be breaking down what's going on with the decline of comic book-based films. So watch out for that. But now let's see what Superman story kicks things off at number 10. For our number 10 pick, we have none other than Superman's first appearance in Action Comics 1 as well as Superman 1. The reason they're both on here is because they both establish the character and his origin for the very first time. On the first page of Action Comics 1, the comic wastes no time telling us as a distant planet was destroyed by old age, a scientist placed his infant son within a rocket ship, launching him towards Earth. He would land on Earth where a passing motorist would find the baby and turn him into an orphanage. As he got older, the alien boy discovered he had incredible powers. When he became an adult, Clark decided to use his powers to be a champion for mankind as Superman. Superman 1 would give us the origin we know now, with the one big change being that the elderly couple, the Kents, found baby Clark, adopting him as their own. What it all comes down to is without these two issues, we wouldn't have the Supes we know and love today, so they sit safely on this list. Next up, we have Superman Speeding Bullets. This is an Elseworld story that puts a fantastic twist on the Man of Steel. This comic tells the story of what would happen if baby Kal-El landed in Gotham City instead of Smallville, Kansas, and was found by the Waynes. The story then follows Batman's origin, but with Clark in Bruce's place, and it's fantastic. It quite literally gives us a Batman with Superman's powers, which is insane, and the way Clark unlocks his powers for the first time is amazing. You see, when his parents Thomas and Martha Wayne are gunned down by Joe Chill in Crime Alley, the stress and pain from the situation causes powers to emerge for the first time, activating his heat vision, at which point he melts Chill's face, killing him. Essentially, seeing Superman become Gotham's Dark Knight made for one of the best Superman stories to date. Now let me ask you, do you love tanks? Of course you do. Who doesn't love tanks? I mean, unless you're on the other side of one on the battlefield, I could see how that would change your feelings. But otherwise, you're gonna love today's sponsor, World of Tanks, a free-to-play PC game. This immersive multiplayer online game allows you to roll out across open fields, climb steep hills, sneak through forests, tear across deserts, and pick your battles in industrial and urban zones. And they built this game with historical accuracy in mind, so it leaves you feeling like a tank commander raining down havoc on fools. Is that too much? Anyway, as far as gameplay, you can rally your teammates, devise a battle plan, and destroy the competition in over 40 battle arenas. With a huge tank arsenal of tank destroyers, artillery, light, medium, and heavy tanks. How you play is up to you. Russian guns blazing, ambush your opponents with stealth tactics, or hang back and take them out from afar. With over 800 tanks, there's always a new way to play, which is why the game has already had over 100 million players. So join a free online game to experience World of Tanks for yourself and interact with its global community of players and tank commandos. Any new players who register for the first time on the Wargaming portal and use our code TANKMANIA, you'll get a Tier 5 Excelsior, 250,000 credits, 7 days of premium access, as well as 3 killer rental tanks for 10 battles each. The link to join and our code are in the description below. Okay, at number 8, we have For the Man Who Has Everything from Superman Annual 11. This story has become a timeless classic for DC and Superman, and that's simply because it's a brilliant yet simple plot. You see, it's Superman's birthday, so Batman, Robin, and Wonder Woman visit him at his Fortress of Solitude, but they find Supes in a catatonic state with a huge alien plant stuck to his chest. They soon find out this was done by the villain Mongol, who tells them the plant is called the Black Mercy. It puts his victims in a deep coma-like sleep, making them dream of their heart's desires while simultaneously feeding off its victims' life force, or bio-aura, as Mongol explains. The story ends with Batman, Robin, and Wonder Woman saving Superman, and Robin trapping Mongol with the Black Mercy. It's just a well-done classic story, so much so it was adapted for an episode of Justice League the Animated Series, which was a fantastic adaptation. Next on the list is Superman 53. Now this issue is simply on the list because this is the first story that explains Superman's origin in great detail. His origin was briefly given to us on the first page of Action Comics 1, and then expanded upon a little bit, introducing the Kents in Superman 1, but Superman 53 introduced us to Krypton, Jor-El, and more, expanding upon why Krypton exploded and what the elves went through to save their only son before the planet blew up. We're also given a more detailed version of how the Kents found baby Kal-El and how they raised him over the years before he ultimately became Superman. This issue basically gave us the full Superman origin that we all know and love today, that's been retold several times throughout the years in all forms of media, and for that and that alone, it had to be on this list. Moving Moving along, we have the epic Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow story by Alan Moore. See, around this time, DC was getting ready to say goodbye to the Silver Age version of Superman, rebooting Superman and many other characters with the Crisis on Infinite Earths event. So Alan Moore, being Alan Moore, wanted to tell the final story of Silver Age Superman, which ended up becoming Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. And what we got was one of the best Superman stories ever told, as Moore was basically allowed to do whatever he wanted with Superman, as the character was going to be rebooted right after anyway. The story focuses on the last time we saw Superman, which was a decade ago, and in the present, Lois Lane tells us and a reporter the last time Superman was seen. And she recounts the revelation of the Man of Steel being Clark Kent to the public. It's a fantastic story that basically tells us why Superman is so important, honoring his Silver Age interpretation. Next, we have Kingdom Come by writer Mark Waid and artist Alex Ross. This is one of the most popular comic books of all time and classics in general. But at the heart of the story is Superman, as everything is basically revolving around him, which is not shocking, as Superman is the heart of the DC universe. I've been very vocal that I'm a way bigger Batman fan, but there is no denying that Superman is the center of DC. The whole premise of the story is Superman retires, which ultimately leads to other heroes abandoning the world for the next generation. But when he was forced to come out of retirement, so to speak, the heroes come back to help him clean up the mess that was created in their absence. And the way the story is told is a complete and utter masterpiece. Again, this isn't just one of the best Superman stories ever told, it's one of the best comic book stories ever told. But it just so happens that Superman is at the center of it, being the beacon of light and leader, which cemented its spot on our list. Now we have Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and artist Tim Sale. It's not shocking this is a staple Superman comic, as it was written by the creative team that brought us Batman The Long Halloween. The reason this book is so successful is because they essentially took the format they used for Batman The Long Halloween and gave it to Superman. You see, in Batman The Long Halloween, there's a murder on every holiday, and we follow Batman and his detective work gradually as the year progresses. And Superman for All Seasons does that, but on a larger scale, following Superman through the different seasons of his life. We get to see him growing up in Smallville, Kansas in great detail, showing us his interaction with his parents and Lana Lang, the first relationship from his youth. And of course, there's lots of Luthor and Lois Lane action as well. Basically, this series does a fantastic job of giving us a personal deep dive into the Man of Steel, including seeing his powers develop and how things as simple as getting a haircut became a big to-do, as normal scissors can't cut through the Man of Steel's hair. Simply put, this is one of the best Superman stories ever, as it gives us the perfect look into Clark's early days, but also how he deals with being the world's greatest hero. Here we have the death of Superman / reign of the Supermen story. This is the death and resurrection of Superman. Now today, killing superheroes and bringing them back is fairly commonplace, but back in 1992, it wasn't nearly as common as it is today. So when DC announced they were killing off their most famous and powerful superhero, it shocked the world and took it by storm. So much so everyone and their mother, whether they read comic books or not, were going to their local comic book shops, buying as many copies as they could. Besides the craze the death of Superman brought to the world, the story was just downright good and an instant classic. I mean, Superman 75 is still crazy. Basically, the entire issue is Superman going toe-to-toe in brutal fashion with Doomsday, the issue ending with both of them killing each other. Then the reign of Superman, which followed, was also a banger, giving us several different versions of Superman trying to replace the Man of Steel, like Eradicator, Superboy, and Steel. But the last son of Krypton would eventually make his return in a black version of his iconic suit. All in all, the death and reign of Superman stories have to be on the top 10 of any Superman list. Next, we have Superman Red Sun. Much like Superman speeding bullets, this is an Elseworld storyline. Yet again, it tells the tale of what would happen if Superman landed somewhere else on Earth, besides Smallville, Kansas. In this case, Soviet Russia. For some reason, it's just super interesting to see how Kal-El would turn out, depending on where he landed in the world. This series also mirrored the real-world Cold War in a lot of ways, and also got the animation treatment in the Superman Red Sun animated movie, which was pretty good. The story is very compelling because Superman truly wants to help people, however, he's morally corrupted in the process. It's definitely a Superman story that makes you think, as there are several concepts that are based off of real-world realities. At number 1 is none other than All-Star Superman. This is the perfect Superman story, as it puts the Man of Steel, a god, essentially up against his own mortality. You see, in this story, we learn that Superman has recently absorbed so much yellow sun radiation, it's killing him. But before Superman dies, he sets out to make the world the best possible place he could. It's just one of the stories that shows why Superman is arguably the greatest superhero of all time, because even when he's facing death, he's more worried about what will happen to the world when he's gone. It's masterfully written by Grant Morrison and perfectly drawn by Frank Quitely. Simply put, whether this is number 1 on your list or not, it has to be somewhere in the top 10. But that wraps up our list of the top 10 essential Superman titles. Let us know what your favorite Superman stories are down in the comments. Other than that, we will see you next time when I talk about all things comics.